Hey, Andrew, how's it going?
How you doing?
Good. Just somebody decided to knock at the door right when
It's all
I can
good.
record. So the dogs are going.
I am in the
Hopefully they really.
sunny yet
Wait,
chill
wait.
state of New Mexico. I'm in Albuquerque visiting my sister-in-law. So I'm right at the base of the Sandia Mountains here at their house. So it's a nice time. Definitely a change from Minnesota.
Oh, heck yeah. What's the weather like? Got it as a Midwesterner. Got to
Yeah.
talk about the weather.
It is sunny, about 50,
Yeah, really chilly.
So warmer than Minnesota this weekend. We're doing a marathon, so it's going to be 80s, high 70s, almost 80 degrees. We'll be down doing this marathon at the White Sands Missile Base. So, yeah,
You're doing a marathon?
yeah.
Like 26.2 miles?
Walking it though, because
Damn.
we're doing a ruck. It's a ruck, so we're walking with a weighted bear. So,
Still 26.2 miles.
yeah,
26.2 miles,
I
and
think it'll be fun.
weights. Man, keep us posted. Anyway, no, thanks for making time for this episode, even though you're on your travels. Today we've got hopefully a fun one. I think it'll be fun. A little different from some of our previous podcasts. But anyway, I was watching a reel the other day from this parenting influencer, and something about the clip just kind of got under my skin, and maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but just wanted to dig
Yeah,
into this reel. And so basically it's going to be an extended reaction, but I figure we talk about it, we go through it, see what we agree with, maybe
right.
how we would see
You heard?
things differently. Yeah,
I watched it, and there's a lot of truth to what he says, but
connection stuff.
there's some stuff. So have you ever seen those videos like that channel Kids React? This is like dads react.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that because my brother-in-law just sent me a video. It wasn't a reaction video, but it was a parenting video last week. And he said, you guys should do those short reaction videos. I was like, well, that's a really good idea. So maybe we'll do those too. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, point being, I'm trying to shit on this guy. He seems to be doing a lot of positive work, and he has some very practical tips regarding parenting that I've gotten insight and help from. So he's got good stuff, and there's something to be said is, okay, it's one.
Right.
So maybe I'm sure there are nuances to what he's presenting that aren't portrayed, that maybe would be uncovered in a longer conversation, but we don't have that luxury at this point. And so we'll just have a little bit of a one-sided conversation, and when it goes viral,
Right.
he reaches out to us to have a bigger conversation, we'll take it up on. All right, so let's start off with playing this clip, and then we'll talk about it.
Increasingly, I have come to believe that our job as parents is not actually hear our kids the wall board, teach them the things that they need to know. Our job as parents are to create an environment where our kids learn the things that they want. Good those ones is also humility. I do not know what my kid needs to know in order for them to become their true, most authentic, happy, and the time that she is known out, the world will out and look like it looks today. Our parents had no clue what the world would look like in 2025. And so to pretend that I know what the world will be like in 25 years, in 2050, I don't. Here's the good news. We don't actually have to. They are great learners. They are incredible little scientists, incredible little explorers. I don't have to know what's coming down the pipe. I just need to create an environment where she can figure that out. And this is why I know this is controversial. Anti-emphasize anything. Standardized testing, standardized ways of teaching kids things. I don't care about all that. I don't care if they're like at grade level in the thing or exceeding grade level in that thing. Only thing I care about is that they love learning. That's it. Because kids who are not conditioned to hate learning will learn everything that they need to know. My 4-year-old probably couldn't identify all of the letters. He also knows advanced multiplication. My 7-year-old didn't learn to read until he was 6.5. He now often reads a chapter book in one day. And as long as we keep doing this, at 18, when they decide they care about quantum computing, they'll probably be able to learn it pretty fast. Our job as parents is to be safe when they need us and get the heck out of the way when they don't. Anything else is profound, staggering, out of touch arrogance.
And there we have it. So that's the clip. And as I alluded to before, there's a lot of good nuggets in here. Like stuff that if I had heard it in isolation, I'd be like, oh yeah, heck yeah. But then, and we'll get into the nitty gritty here, but there's just some of the conclusions I feel are maybe a little extreme or a little absolutist. But we'll just kind of walk through it. Try to, hopefully by the end of walking through this, we'll have a better idea of, okay, what is our role as parents, aspiring parents to in teaching the kids in our lives? Like, what can we teach? And he brings up an interesting problem statement. We don't know what's going to happen in 25 years, and we don't know what our each specific kid of ours, like what their ultimate purpose is, or what will bring them.
Yeah.
What like perfect combination of elements will bring them peace and satisfaction and fulfillment. And that's true. So let's talk about that.
I'm reading the transcript of it. Like there is a lot of truth to what he's saying. And perhaps maybe part of it is we're thinking more on a different level too. Like in certain instances, I would agree with all his points, but as a whole, I don't think this is something that can be like across the board applied to everything in parenting, but I'm just a wannabe dad, so what do I know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing, like, even just as an aspiring dad, as humans, like, we have gone this far off of the shoulders of those that came before us. Like, we have learned from those that have come before us, and we can't get through life without being taught and we can give back to society, to humanity, to our communities by also teaching what we have learned. But to your point, I do get the sense that this reel is more education like focused. And however, there was a comment where in the reel where one of his followers was like, well, I agree to a certain extent, but I think we need to teach things like decency and she listed a couple of what might be basic values, and the original poster responded that, well, I actually disagree, but we don't have enough real estate in this comment thread to talk about it. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he started the conversation, but then didn't want to continue having it. So that's why we're having this conversation here. If it was just that, I'd be like, okay, yeah. So I've highlighted a few snippets from the transcript, which, by the way, so I was like, how do I get a transcript from this reel? And I was kind of proud of the solution I came up with, because there are tools online that you have to like create an account for, or most of them you have to subscribe to, whatever. Okay, this is too much work. So I just my voice to text, and I held it up as the audio was going, and it worked very well. So just a little life hack for y'all. So first snippet, our jobs as parents is not actually to prepare our kids for the world, to teach them the things that they need to know. Our job as parents is to create an environment where kids learn the things that they want to learn, and the difference between those things is ultimately just humility. So,
there's a couple.
What's your initial reaction? How do you hear that?
It is the job of the parents to instill and to teach children certain things. Basically, and again, I don't, just going off the comments, I can only infer that he means this across the board. But to say that parents don't have that role in the child's life is to deny the family as the basic unit of society. Like, how are you going to build society if you're not really trying to build your own family and instill and teach good habits, good virtues? Like, basically, he's leaving this to, it's not our job to teach kids right from wrong. They have to figure that out on their own. And it leads to a lot of subjective ideologies when there should be objectivity. Like, it's ingrained in us as humans that there is right and wrong. It's not like us to decide because like with that, it basically, I mean, this is an extreme thing, but it's, if we don't teach our kids that killing for the sake of killing is bad, then they'll grow up and be like, well, no, it's good. I'll just, again, taking it to the extreme, but in these cases, limited amount of time, I want to use like the most extreme examples I possibly can to illustrate the point. So, as it is on us, my parents taught me the right from wrong. They taught me good work ethic. They led by their own example and were like we're telling you this because this is what helped us to become the people we are, and they're great people. So of course, like, I want to learn from them. I want them to teach me. Even now, as I aspire to be a father, like, I look to my dad to like continuously, because you never stop being a dad once you're a dad. So,
yeah, I love it. You have so many good points there. I love you bring it to like brought up the coin of community.
Yeah.
As humans, we are social creatures. We are communal creatures. We have been since the beginning of our species. You go back to caveman times, that is like the opposite of what he said. Our job is not to actually prepare our kids for the world. It's
right.
Like very literally the job of cavemen. It's like,
right.
Okay, this is what you have to do to survive. And we wouldn't be here talking today if they hadn't done it. What does survival look like in today's day and age? It's not so primal. It's more emotional, more mental, more holistic.
It's
demand,
like you said, it stems from our primal, and it's a primal instinct. It stems from that. It carries through.
Yeah, I do respect what this guy's name is, John, and I do respect what he's doing in it, and I'm sure he would probably still agree with a lot of what we're saying. So again, take these comments with a grain of salt, but we're taking what we have here and we're working with what we've got. But yeah, so I think agreeing with you is that is literally our job as fathers, or will be our job as fathers, is like to prepare the kids for the world, to teach them things that they need to know. If I were to guess though, like where he's coming from is as individuals,
right?
There is no way that we can know everything there is to know about everything. And there is no way that, like, I mean, none of us is going to say we're the perfect parent, we're the perfect individual. We have everything figured out. I meant it. And so it's like, okay, let's take that into account. Like, I think that the challenge is teaching everything to our children as gospel. It's like, this is the way it is. Accept it. Believe it. No room for conversation. Versus, hey, this is what I've learned throughout my life. And this is why I've come to this conclusion. And then as they get older, like when they're younger, we can tell stories about it. As they get older, we can open up conversations about it, ask questions. But so it's not dogmatic teaching, but it's more like collaborative teaching. Hey, like I'm here as the older, hopefully wiser, definitely more experienced individual. I've been through more than you have.
Right. Yeah. No, there's philosophical and human principles that, like, the sooner a child can understand that, the better. So teaching those principles, the way, like, helping them to understand that is important. As you're talking about this too, I was thinking about a conversation you and I were having about Evie, and I think we brought it up in one of the episodes too. It's, you want her to be independent and critical thinking and decide for her own. And I kind of feel that's part of the message he's trying to get across, is we can't teach them like what we want them to be, like, with their life. Like, that's not our job. It's their job to decide what their life looks like. But we can teach them, we should teach them, in my opinion, like those good habits that are going to help them figure out or decide, or the virtues to be a good person, to help them to achieve their goals. Like what we've been talking about episode after episode.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like one of my big things that kind of highlights that is like, I want to teach Eddie and Liam like how to think, not what to think. And that like kind of summarizes, I think, what you're saying. Because it's like you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. You teach a man a fish, he eats for a lifetime, right? So it's that sort of thing. Are we going to teach the end substance, or are we going to teach like the universal principles and values that they can apply however they see fit? And so now, looking at the rest of what he said, like the second part of the statement, I fully agree with. Is that our job as parents is to create an environment where our kids learn the things that they want to learn, and the difference, and then he goes on to say the difference between those things is ultimately just humility. But yeah, like we do need to create that environment, but I don't think that excludes our responsibility.
Right. I agree.
I
mean, we've had this discussion on the podcast and the episode before. You're exposing Evie to all these different possible interests and hobbies, and like how dancing wasn't. She had this idea of dancing, and when you took dancing, it didn't turn out the way she thought it was, and you weren't going to force her to continue on with it because it didn't align with the concept of what she had. So yeah, you're creating that environment of allowing her to have those experiences.
Yeah.
And learn on herself that way.
Yeah. So, yes, yeah, we absolutely do need to create that environment. The last thing he says which strikes me as interesting, the difference between preparing our kids for the world to teach them the things that they need to know and creating the environment, which he is juxtaposing as two, like two mutually exclusive principles, which I don't think is the case. But he said the difference is humility. And I find that interesting because I don't think being humble doesn't mean to not do a thing. What you're saying is, okay, to your point, like we can't, our job as parents isn't to raise like the kid that we want to be. It's like, we're not going to say, okay, you're
going to be a doctor.
You're going to play this sport, you're going to play these instruments, you're going to go to this college, and you're going to become a doctor.
Yeah.
No, that would be arrogance as he ends the reel. But being humble about knowing the perfect path for your children doesn't mean stepping all the way back. There are a number of examples from history that highlight that, if you do a thing, if you are humble enough to recognize your inadequacy, but then you still step up to the plate, then you are maybe even more fit for the job. Was it you and I don't know if it was you and I who were talking about this recently, but maybe you're the one who brought it up. But are you familiar with Cincinnatus from ancient Rome? He was the farmer who Rome called upon.
Well, it wasn't you and I, but I know the story.
Dictator to find out an enemy.
To the sake of the listeners.
And they but so they approached him they approached him in his field, behind his till, and they're like, hey, we need you to come save Rome. And it was like, nah, I'm a farmer. And they're like, you're the best man for the job.
Yeah.
It was like he was ultimately convinced to do it. He goes, saves the day, has ultimate power, could have held on to it. But once he did, he relinquishes his power, goes back to the farm to live the rest of his days happily, only to be called back when some rich mofo tried to take over Rome, which might be a little poignant in today's current event, at least from certain perspectives. But anyway, so he comes in, saves the day again,
Right.
and then could held on to power again, but still relinquishes, go back. So humility doesn't mean not to do the thing, but it could actually be a superpower where it tempers what you do or advises what you do. So if we're humble and recognize where we shall fall short, we'll realize, okay, our kids, like, they are their own individuals, and they have, from a pretty early age, it's very evident, like, how much autonomy, how much understanding they have. And I think it's our responsibility to help foster that. And I think humility will allow us to do that.
Right.
And at the same time, we're not just going to be like, oh, here's the car keys, learn how to drive.
You're spot on with that, though. Yeah.
Anyway, just for the sake of, well, just for the fun of it, a couple more examples of individuals who didn't want to, who would have preferred to spend their life more peacefully, but answered the call of the greater call of leadership. Abe Lincoln, he was not happy with the divisiveness of politics. Would have preferred to just continue being a lawyer, I believe. But he saw that he needed to address the issues at hand, and especially slavery. And he answered that call. Nelson Mandela, once he was released from prison, he was like, I just spent all this time in prison. I just want to focus on myself. But they're like, no, you're the best man for the job. You got to lead us through this crisis. And he accepted. My mother-in-law reminded me, for those who are more spiritual, and
Oh, yeah.
my mother-in-law reminded me of St. Joseph, the carpenter, who was Jesus's earthly father. Perfect example. He's like,
Right.
how am I supposed to raise the son of God, right? But, he was humble. He is the epitome of humility, right? But he still stepped up to the plate to raise Jesus, teach him carpentry and the Torah and all those things. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So point B, we can be humble, and it is good to be humble, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay. So, my top opportunity for rebuttal.
This is one where it's,
I just didn't.
I mean, he's just talking about, he doesn't know what the world's going to be like when his kids grow up, and what they need in order to be their true, most authentic, happy, and successful person by that time. But just because we don't know the future doesn't mean you can't prepare for it or help prepare for it, like we were just talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this has very literally been a true statement,
but,
since the beginning of time.
If I am...
Nobody has ever known.
Look at ourselves. Like, we still don't know what the future holds in store for us. And yet here we are trying to make ourselves be the best that we can be, so that way we can lead by our own example of trying to better ourselves. And there's tried and true methods that's been passed, like virtues and habits that have been passed down since the beginning of time. That regardless of what situation you're going to find yourself in, like, it's basically a universal truth at this point. So it's like, why not help teach my children to practice to build these habits? And so that way, when, you never know when these things are going to be useful, and they almost always are. So it's just because you don't know what the future holds in store, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be teaching your children. Should not be teaching your children just great, I don't want to say basic, but just habits and virtues that we know build good personhood.
Two of your points really resonate. One is, okay, there are these universal principles, habits, tools from very early on, at least from the beginning of written history, that maintain the test, that withstand the test of time, right? And the other being, like, as individuals, we don't know what the future holds. And I'm just reiterating what you said, but it's okay. That doesn't mean we're not going to work on ourselves. Yeah, we don't know what the future holds, but we're still going to prepare ourselves as best we can based off of history, based off of what we have experienced. And we can do the same for our children. And I think, and frankly, I would love to have this conversation with John one day and really get his true thoughts on the matter, because I feel like there's a lot left unsaid. So if anybody knows him and he's amenable.
Go ahead.
I was just going to make a final point. Like, we talked about Aristotle a number of times across these episodes, I believe. And he talked about virtues, habits, whatever you want to call them, that are still becoming in vogue today. Like, we already had an episode about grit, and we talked about the virtues that Aristotle addressed, like
courage.
Summarize them as fortitude and what was the other one? Courage. Yeah, it's like, these aren't new concepts. They have withstood the test of time. So why not give our kids the set of tools? Let's very literally think about giving them a toolbox with all the tools in there. There's screwdrivers of all sorts. You got ratchet set, you got a hammer, you got nails, screws, whatever.
Yeah.
Teach them these tools, and then they can pick which ones are most applicable to their lives. And so, and we're not like,
No.
we're not
and
writing
and you're given the opportunity to use those tools, and when they realize, oh, this doesn't really work for me after all, what's the next one down? Like, another point, if we as adults read these self-help books and all these other things on how to be like successful, and like we can take them to heart and understand them, why would we not want to pass that type of information or knowledge through teaching rather than just like, I understand, like, we do want to create that environment, that positive learning environment. Like, we should. It's part of our responsibility as a parent. And I agree with this point later on, get kids curious. Like, there's the healthy curiosity is important. But, like, if we as adults are just figuring some of these things out through like our self-help books or things like that from professionals teaching us, to just not pass that on in a way that a kid can understand and learn it seems kind of selfish.
Yeah, I would agree.
Irresponsible.
Selfish. Was delightful. Yeah. No. But no, I couldn't agree more. Something I've heard that really resonates with me, and I think is very applicable here, is a really useful tool for teaching our children is just ask questions or put them in scenarios where it's a learning moment, right? But the goal isn't to have the perfect answer. The goal isn't to, okay, an example from the other day, which admittedly, it was an opportunity for me that I let go, but I asked Evie to get something from the counter, and she's like, I can't reach, so I went and I just got it myself. But what I could have done was like, that could have been a learning opportunity, be like, okay, I wonder if there's a way that you can get to it. And then there was probably multiple ways that she could have done it. Like, she could have pulled a stool over, she could have asked me to pick her up. There's like a number of ways, and none of them are right or wrong. And maybe she would have gone and gotten like 5 different boxes when there was a stool right there. It's like, pile up the boxes. It's not about finding the most efficient solution or the quote-unquote right solution, but it's about building that problem-solving skill set.
Right.
And I think that's teaching right there. Is that if I had done that, that would have been teaching.
Right.
Without.
No, I agree. Just with the nieces and nephews around, some of them will be like, oh, I can't do this. I don't know how. And my response is usually, I think you can figure this one out. You're already holding the things you need to do this. And in some case, so let's think about it for a minute. And like how these two pieces of whatever you're trying to do like actually work. Take a second. And usually they'll get it. Other times I'll actually look over and see what they're doing. I'm like, oh yeah, you would never have figured this out, bud. This is even hard for me. But then you use that as well, kind of a learning experience for the both of you at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, let's try that. Just kind of showing, oh, let's try this or let's try that. Does this work? Tell me if you think this works. If any of my coworkers are listening, I kind of use this method on them too. Because like you said, you can teach a man to fish, but if you can lead them to water, like in my work, our system I know inside and out. So it'll be, because I'm like, hey, this isn't working. What do you know? And I'm like, instead of just saying, do this, let's walk through it. Here's the guidelines that you need to follow, like the document that's printed out. It's in this certain section that should help you in this area. And the reason I do that is then they have to read through it and then they understand how the system works before and after the step that they're on. And now they know the system just as well as I do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And yeah, it's just about teaching the process. And then that is a skill set of problem solving, and it's closely tied with knowing how to learn or learning how to learn. Rich, the next snippet I was looking at is, okay, we don't have to teach our kids because kids are great learners.
Which they are.
Incredible scientists and explorers, which I totally agree with. They absolutely are. And he goes on and said, we just need to create the environment in which to figure it out. And there is truth to that. But there's still opportunity for guidance, similar to you with your coworkers and the example with Evie. There's opportunity for even just simple questions they're still the ones figuring out. They're still the ones choosing to do it. And then on the flip side, okay, what comes often with learning? Even if it's something that they want to learn, like frustration, right? Frustration is, I think we've talked about this in a previous episode. Frustration is a symptom of the epinephrine in your brain, like rewiring your brain. Like your brain is building, I may be getting it sounds a little wrong on this, but basically it's building new neural pathways that now you have that knowledge in your brain. So there's rewiring going on in your brain, and that results in frustration. So it's about bringing down that frustration from 9 or 10 where you can't get past that moment and becomes a permanent accessible thing to like a 7 or 8 where, okay, you're still building those pathways, you're still learning, but at a more calm level and you can follow it through. So if we left a kid to their own devices where they're only learning in a non-frustrating environment, I think they would end up learning a lot. I think that would be a detriment to them, because then they're like, anytime they come to a roadblock, they give up. And that's an opportunity for us to teach them how to learn, how to regulate themselves, how to come back down. And I think that's part of creating the environment in which to learn.
Well, and you know what? Oh, I was going to say,
so
on a side note, I want to know how often this...
Go ahead.
I mean, maybe it's a bad thought, but his kid's like in urgent care a lot, like, because you do have to teach kids like that type of stuff. Don't touch don't touch the red part of the stove because it's hot. And you say those things and kids are still going to do them out of defiance or curiosity. Like working on farms and growing up around farms was, don't touch the fence, it's electric. That's one of the first things us boys would do is we'd see who could touch the electric fence longest. But we knew what we were getting ourselves into.
Yeah.
We were taught, you're going to get shocked if you do it. So now it's just, let's see what that's like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think there's a balance between, okay, we've done what we could. Like, you could go in, you talk to a kid a number of times.
You pull the dog's tail, he's going to get.
And you play with fire, you're going to get burnt. And then if it's enough, obviously you're not going to let your kid go and take a flamethrower and burn down a barn. You're not going to be like, oh, this is a great learning opportunity for him. I've told him that he's going to get burned, but this is a great learning opportunity. But okay, like maybe he's old enough to know, and he goes and I wonder what this is going to feel like. And he touches
Mhm.
the hot stove. Okay, yeah, you're going to get burned. You could either physically restrain him
Yeah.
or be like, okay, it's a learning moment. So I think there's a balance. There's a common example that's come up this winter for me, and I've talked to other parents that have similar perspective. You know, you go outside and it's cold out and not
Yeah.
get frostbitten in 10 minutes cold, but below freezing or whatever. And kid refuses to put on the jacket. Personally, with Evie, she's nearly 4. Like, you don't want to put on your jacket? I'm not going to fight you. Like, I'm going to inform her, hey, it's cold outside. And if you don't put on your jacket, you may end up cold. So do you want to put on your jacket? Nah, I'm fine. Okay. And then I let her go outside with
Right.
the jacket. Caveat being, creating the environment in which to learn, I bring the jacket for her because I know she's going to end up. Well, I say I know she's going to end up cold, but actually, she doesn't always.
Everybody.
That girl. So
There is.
I think there's a balance. I think there's a balance. And maybe that's what, like, this clip, I think maybe that's why it, like, got under my skin a bit. And maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but it's just because I get it as an influencer, and he presents it as a hot take. Okay, so there is that caveat. All I know is he's got good tips, good practical tips on dealing with kids. He's, from what I found, he's a pastor, and he's written a book about parenting, and it seems it's pretty decently research based. So, I mean, I don't think this guy is talking out of his ass or anything, but yeah, just, and I'm, again, maybe he really did mean it fully for just education specifically. And
Like I said, there's a lot to you that just a wannabe dad. I'm like, yep. And he even ends it like, our job is to be safe when they need us and get the heck out of the way when they don't. Like, that's true too. Not as a, this is our only role. That's not the only role of the parent. But, like, it is our job. It is our responsibility as fathers to protect our children and let them blossom and grow, like, instead of controlling them.
Yeah. I love that. And I have an excellent example for that from a friend of ours. So she has a daughter who's turning 7, and they invited Evie to go to the pool recently. And Evie and Elsie get along very well, but there is an age gap. And there was a moment where they're on an iPad, I believe, and they're like both playing on this same iPad. It's Elsie's. And Elsie's, okay, it's time to be done. And Evie starts, I wasn't there, but he is being a kid about it. No, I don't, like, why? Getting emotional about it. And Elsie's mom was like, she had the initial inclination to step in and resolve the situation and bring down the emotions. But she's like, you know what? I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to see how this plays out. And which, for one, is extremely hard to do. So big kudos to her. Like, I've been in similar situations, and like, our initial instinct, I think, as parents, at least for me, is to jump in, to make things better, to de-escalate. But she let Elsie take the wheel. And I'm not going to go through the nitty-gritty of it, but Elsie ended up explaining the situation with just slight guidance from her mom, who just basically posed a question to Evie and be like, hey, it's at 2%. So if we kept playing, it would die. And then, so we need it. And then Abby was like, okay, well, like, maybe next time I bring my tablet and then we can take turns on both of our tablets. And so basically, she let the 7-year-old and 4-year-old figure it out on their own. The 7-year-old de-escalated the situation. The 4-year-old regulated her emotions and came up with a future solution. And everything was hunky-dory. It was like, okay, that's amazing. And again, kudos to Elsie's mom for taking a step back.
Right.
and getting the heck out of the way.
I think so
when
too.
They don't
and
eat.
that's
And
why I agree with
I
this.
think
And I
there's a
see
lot
it
to
with my
learn.
nieces and nephews on a daily basis, especially with 2 special needs kids, like emotions run high, like every other minute. But the oldest, who is very autistic, it surprises me, like in some of these cases, like just how deep a thinker she is throughout all of it, and like how I don't know so I'll just paint it with an example. Like the youngest kid, like his treat or something was like bad or moldy or something, and it was his favorite candy. So Felicity had one of those, and like she noticed like Craig or Philip wasn't happy, and now they had to have a treat they didn't like, and blah blah blah. So she was just sitting there thinking, and you could see it on her face. She was like trying to think, like, how do I help? This isn't my problem, but my brother's upset about something. And like, we could have, all of us adults were there, and we could have just been like, oh yeah, well, before we could jump in, like, Felicity was like, hey, Craig or Philip, like, how about this? You take this one of mine, and then we'll trade this in our treat bags for like something like that. Like, brokered a fair exchange, like and it wasn't because there was fighting, it was just because little one was upset and she just wanted to see her sibling happy. And so it was just like you said, I had the opportunity to like just step in and fix it. Oh yeah, this is disgusting. Treat. I've got a bag of candy. Let me just pull something out. But yeah, they resolved it on their own and then brokered like this treat deal, and everyone was happy in the end.
Thank you. Yeah, I love it. I mean, pretty amazing what these kids are capable of. And to the original poster's point, kids are excellent learners.
Yes, they are.
Good scientists. They are phenomenal negotiators. Side tangent. So the other day, we got some Girl Scout cookies because 'tis the season. And we let Evie have a couple after dinner. And she asked for more. And Sarah's, okay, you can have one more. And Evie, no, one more. 3 more. One or none. One or none. She says, okay, one. And then she gets the one cookie.
Evie.
As she's eating it, she's one at a time. Yeah. So, but we saw through that one, won that negotiation. But
Yes.
like the kids are pretty amazing, and we don't always give them full credit. So if it's not a matter of life or death, and it's not something that is a house rule, and this isn't meant to be an exclusive list.
Yeah.
A lot of times,
honestly,
if it's not any of those things, you can just
let them, like we said,
let it ride.
You want your kids to be able to think critically and rationally, and I do too. But they can only do that if you give them the opportunities. You can't be solving all the problems for them.
Yeah. My own gears are turning, and we're running out of time, but hopefully y'all's gears are turning too. Like, this is not meant to be an exclusive list, and also hopefully we're not countering John's extreme hot take.
I mean, I did take it to an extreme, but
just another extreme, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh, that was just an extreme example, but like, hopefully leaves you asking the right questions and, okay, is this something that I do need to insert myself in, or what is a way that I can create a safe and positive environment in which my kids can learn? What are the right questions to ask? And am I trying to jump in because of my own like limitations, or my own like, I just don't want to do this? Or is it an opportunity for our kids to learn something on their own? And by doing that, they also get a lot of self-confidence and autonomy. And so anyway, moral of the story, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
It's like, we're here to help our kids. We're here to prepare our kids for this crazy world as best as we can.
Exactly.
While
So-
also balancing that with
Well,
getting the heck out of the way.
I know you got to run, Paul, but this was a good topic today. A little reaction vid. So thanks for sharing this.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks for being amenable. And if we had more time, there's so much more we could have done, and we could have
Change your
talked
pace.
more about from the perspective of an aspiring dad and all that too. But I think this is a good launch pad. Change of pace, and it's a good launch pad for future episodes. Yeah. No, thank you, man. Especially
course.
since you're mid-vacation and you still took the time to record this from the sunny terrain of New Mexico. But yeah, hopefully y'all enjoyed this episode as well. Let us know what you thought. If you want to see more of this, we can definitely do more of them. But in the meantime, just see. Well, I would be curious to hear what are ways that you guys let your kids figure things out on their own, and what are ways that you guys teach your kids through guidance or asking questions or what have you. So anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank
as
you
always. I appreciate your time, and thank you everybody for listening. All right. Toodles.